Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Welcome back. And this is a segment, a new segment I want to start doing, where I talk about my experience on a university campus. Sort of diaries from a university campus, if you will. And when I talk to a lot of Zoomers, or not Zoomers, Boomers, older people, Gen X, about what's happening on university campuses today, what they are teaching, and what they're training kids to be, they all say, "Oh no, no, no! I remember university. It wasn't like that back then." Well, I'm sorry to say, it was like that back then, and it's even worse now. And it's sort of like a plea to parents to stop like sending their kids into these indoctrination mills. Like, it's not great, it's not fun, and it's not helping. You are not helping your kids by forcing them to go to university. You are probably, in fact, hindering them, because there are there are enough failed art students. Like, if your son, he doesn't know what to do with his life, but you're pushing him into university, ease up on him. Let him figure out what he wants, because one half of a successful person in life is passion. And if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, you're not going to do it well. Like, I know right now I'm caught in a university degree I'm not passionate for, and in fact I should probably be doing work for it right now, but instead I'm filming a YouTube video. And because there are things I'm more passionate about than that. Passionate people will be successful in life no matter what. They will. You could drop them into a forest, and if you arm them with the right tools from youth, they will grow up and be successful. If you teach them work ethic, if you teach them pride in their work, if you teach that, things may not be going your way, but if you work hard enough, you'll be able to win. And that's not always the case, but it's in the majority of the cases. Um, Capitalism is good at selecting people who are good at the system and not good at the system. And when people are typically not good at the system, they're sent to university to get a 4-year piece of paper and expect they'll have a job at the other end, when that's not the case. And if you think that sending your child to get an art or science degree will automatically get them a job, that's not the case. It's not the case. Um, and here's why. So there are very few university students, outside of like engineering or like a lot of these very specialized, vocational programs, that end up being successful or even having a job in their degree field. Um, I forget the exact numbers, but a majority of people do not get a job even in the field that they get a degree in. And that's because, they're kind of just forced into it, and they kind of just did it. A majority of university students will switch their degree before their time is up. I'm, one of the few that stuck with my degree all the way through, getting a political science degree. But that's because I'm passionate about the country, this country, the politics of this country, and the government of this country. And I want to learn and understand deeper how policy works, how government works, how to get involved in everything. But that's only one half, of the a 4-year degree. A lot of people just think that the piece of paper at the end is the goal, and it's really not. The goal of a university degree is to give you a 4-year grace period between childhood and adultdom, where you can sort of figure things out and you can start putting pieces into place to help you be successful. The piece of paper shows that you're committed to something, but you won't be successful with it until you go out and you make connections. You go out, join clubs, you join things that will help you in your future. You know, I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am now if I didn't go out, join clubs, if I didn't, meet people, if I didn't gain connections in the political community and start talking and start working. Work experience is by far more valuable than any university degree, especially in the arts and the sciences. Um, and so just stop forcing your kids to go to university. It's not good for them. A majority of what they teach in university now is a curriculum based off of Marxist thinking. Um, of critical theory, and I've talked to a lot of older people who are like, "Oh, critical theory? That you must mean critical thinking." And no, that's not the case. It's actually like quite the opposite of it. Critical thinking and critical theory are do not go hand in hand, because critical theory is the indoctrination of kids into this having them have a Marxist lens of the world, where you view everything through the lens of race, the lens of class, the lens of gender, and you break everything down. It's really it's sort of the industrial revolution's response to the Enlightenment, where the Enlightenment had all these thinkers that thought of these ideas and founded modern political ideology. The Industrial Revolution had this same thing, but with vastly inferior thinkers, at least in my opinion, like Marx and Engels, who viewed everything under the lens of oppression. Everyone is oppressed except for the oppressors. And if you dig deeper into that ideology, it's not scalable to any means. You cannot scale it up, you cannot scale it down. It has to be very specific and very ideological, to where something like, liberalism or conservatism, you can sort of scale them to a lot bigger, and we have for the longest point. But, that's getting aside myself. I have a couple textbooks here, one for a new program that I looked into called Sustainability Studies at the university, and it's essentially just a way to get kids to look at city government, to lobby city government as a Marxist, ban cars, ban fuel. And it's very, it's very like sounds good on paper, build cities in a way that are more efficient, but in practice would involve vast government takeover of resources, and would in the long term not be good for the average person. And cultural theory, critical theory, and popular culture, which has us examine Canadian culture, through these lenses, and essentially aims to discredit Canadian culture and everything that great Canadians in the past have done, based on the bad things that they've done, and the whole system of oppressor versus oppressed, which is slowly killing this country, killing the soul of the people, killing our culture, and will leave us an empty husk of a country. And these are what these professors are teaching your kids. They're not training them to be strong-willed, independent thinkers. They are training them to be activists. If you send, there's a common joke that, you'll send your son or daughter to university, and they'll be this, this good-looking, like trimmed up person, dresses well, and then they'll come back with a bunch of piercings, tattoos, and their hair dyed. And that's the theory. They, through the universities, they propagate mental illness. They allow mental illness to be commonplace, and they don't allow people to sort of talk through things rationally or offer real discussions. It's, you are oppressed because of X. You are a victim because of X. And when you send your kid to university, you are sending them into a place where they become a victim, and they become a pawn of this leftist political agenda. And whenever some cause that aims to destroy Canada comes forth, they will be thrown at these causes full force, because that's what they're trained to do. That's how they're trained to think. They are trained to be overly empathetic. Like, some empathy is good, but these people are overly empathetic. And they think differently than us. It's hard to explain. But due to this thinking, I'll probably do a better in-depth video in the future on it. But this thinking is, they're an oppressed group. I've been told I'm an oppressed group. I identify with them as an oppressed group. And so no matter whether it's right or wrong, I will march with them, or riot, or incite violence in the case of Antifa, over this. I will become a nuisance to society because I've been told, and these other people have been told, that they are victims. And we don't want real solutions. We don't want these problems to be solved. We just want to march on behalf of these political elite so they can gain power, and then, it's all fine because our side is winning. So an alternative to sending your children to universities is allowing them for a couple of years to figure out who they are as a person, allowing them to hone entrepreneurial senses. If they're that kind of thinker, allow them to take, free online courses, like reading books. As you can see right here, does what stupid people think university does for them. Going and reading these, going to these lectures and hearing people talk, and it's very boiled down knowledge at these lectures, like very in depth. Like if you just buy the textbooks, like you have a better understanding of the knowledge than you do when you go to university. Only you're not paying for a university professor. And arguably, if you look at books, you have a wider range of knowledge and you have a better, deeper understanding of knowledge. So let them read on their own time. Let them develop entrepreneurial skills. Have them go out and network with people. There's loads of free networking. Well, this is before COVID, but lots of good free networking events. I went to quite a few of them when I was looking for something to do with life. I didn't really have all that much meaning. I was just kind of an aimless university student. So I went to a lot of these networking events. I met with people. I sort of learned about the world. You sit through a slideshow presentation of someone in the industry telling you, about the industry, what they do. Or, you could also go to trade school, learn a trade. If they're not entrepreneurial thinkers, if they don't have these senses, there's nothing wrong with being, just being a worker. Like we have, like, in our minds, we have put down these jobs, necessary jobs, important jobs, great jobs, that, oh, they're below me because, you have to do physical labor. And it leaves us with this class of like mushy, disgusting, like people with no work ethic. Like it boggles the mind how these people still exist. So let your kids join the trades. In fact, they probably have a higher chance of getting a job, and a well-paying job at that, if they go through trade school than if they go through university. Like 4-year degree, if you didn't take accountability onto yourself and do things outside of the university that will help you get a job, you're sort of up the creek without a paddle there. You're aimless. You have nowhere to go. You have a piece of paper that you spent a lot of money on and you feel should be giving you these opportunities, but you don't. I took a sociology class in my first year, and one of the big main topics of it was, I sold that textbook, but if I remember the topic correctly, it was essentially, the quote-unquote overqualification of people. It's like, oh, well, McDonald's won't hire you because you're overqualified, and you think that, and they put it in your mind. It's like, well, you think that they won't hire you because you're overly qualified. It's like, no, that's not the case. You are vastly underqualified. In like any metric of it, you are vastly underqualified. No matter if you have a degree or not, you are underqualified for a lot of jobs. And if you don't set yourself up properly, you'll continue to be underqualified because you have no relevant skills. Yeah, you can tell us 14 different ways of that everyone in the room is oppressed, but you don't know how to file your taxes. You don't know how to manage a spreadsheet. You don't know how to make a solid presentation. You don't have the physical labor yourself to move a box, to build anything. We've vastly undervalued the trades in our society. And I think this goes back, 50 years or so, because, people would see people with university degrees have pretty good paying jobs. And yeah, that was 50 years ago, but there wasn't this overarching push to send people to university back then. You could support a family on a high school diploma, 50, 60, 70 years ago. You can't do that now. You can't get a good job with a high school diploma because the market has been flooded with university degrees. And now a bachelor's degree is for these uppity white collar jobs that the job market is absolutely just flooded with people that, they don't have the necessary qualifications to join. And like an entry job requires a master's degree, where if you go over to the blue collar side, if you go through the trade school route, you get an apprenticeship, you become a journeyman, you get your red seal, your ticket, whatever, you have a job. You'll pay off your student loans a lot quicker, you'll work your way up, and you'll get paid better and better. And, it's hard work. Life is hard work. No matter what you do, you have to put in the work or you won't be successful. And that's what, this millennial and for some aspect the Zoomer generation are not understanding, is that you have to put work in. You have to be ambitious. You have to have this work ethic. And a lot of university students, I constantly make the joke of the useless university student, but but that's the truth. They don't have the work ethic. They'll do their classes and then they'll go to a party afterwards, and they won't have drive to do anything else. Or, the worst thing ever is, and it's been shown as a virtue, like people think it's virtuous, of these people who just study like 24/7. They're in their books, like they're in their textbooks 24/7. And it is so discouraging to see. It's like, bro, you could be out there doing something more instead of just studying. Like, you could be out there you could be out there marketing yourself. You could be out there gaining connections, but you're not, and you are in your books. You are nosing your books because you are focused on a grade, because that's what you think will make you successful. Like, that's what you've been conditioned to think makes you successful. You have your nose in your book, and you're reading all these facts that have been paid for by special interest groups, because that's all university textbooks are. They're really just paid for by special interest groups to push a narrative. But like, bro, you could be out there doing more. It's like, I've seen great, hardworking, ambitious people just go out there and just wreck themselves in university. It's like, hey, I'm going to a marketing event tonight, want to come? It's like, can't, bro, I'm studying. It's like, studying for what? It's like, this test happening in 4 months. It's like, oh, come on, man. It's like, and then they'll shut themselves in. They'll study all the time. They won't gain these skills to be personable. They won't have these skills to communicate with people, and they'll just be drones. It's like, and if their plan fails to get into a specific, like, any specificity, and it just fails, and then they're just broken, disheartened people. Like, it's so sad to see. So sad to see. Like, I've seen great people go down this path and come out the side not better. And like, we don't need more useless university people. We need people in the trades. We need people in manufacturing. We need to bring these jobs back. We need people to fill them. And people look at the ticker and they're like, oh, well, this will help us get things for cheaper. It's like, you're missing the point here. Like, who cares if things are cheaper if, wages start going up in this country? Like, we talk about like raising the minimum wage. It's like, that's all right and all, but for the most part, wages have been stagnant in this country for a long time, and inflation just keeps going up, especially under COVID. Like, we need to do something different. We need to raise the cap of the average salary in this country, but we haven't, because we have continuously hollowed out our job sector, sending our jobs overseas, and then importing a bunch of people in to a system that cannot support them. And I've been called like lots of things for my position on this, but if we cannot support this many people coming into our country, and it's just leading to more misery and more joblessness, like more people stressed about not being able to find a job. Like, we shouldn't be doing this. It's like, well, we have gaps in our job market. It's like, no, we have gaps in our wages. Wages are continuing to stay stagnant because we have people coming in. When they offer more wages, they just bring in more people, and then that ticker resets the wage back down to minimum, because you have people just looking for a job. And when they get advanced in their careers, it's like, okay, I'm ready to step up, I'm ready to make more than what you've had. It's like, sorry, you're gone. We'll hire the next person at minimum wage. We'll hire the next, fresh out of university student. And it's a system that's bound to fail. And it's been propagated by this university society that, oh, well, it feels good in our head, and the big businesses are paying us to say this, so we might as well do it. It might as well be correct. And it's absolutely wrong. I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but the sentiment remains the same. We need more people. We need to shift. Like, a lot of these white collar jobs now, the wages are now getting really depressed because, the oversaturation of people with 4-year university degrees, a lot of them not having the appropriate skills to succeed in life. And wages are going up in the blue collar sector because they have a shortage of labor. And the market sort of isn't correcting itself right now because people are still thinking that university is the way to go. This old idea that, well, everyone I saw with a university degree was successful. It's like, yeah, that was 50 years ago, man. 50 years ago. Like, those people were probably driven. Like, they weren't pushed there. They chose to go there, and they wanted that. And they were rewarded for their efforts then. Like, now is not that. You have a bunch of useless people getting useless pieces of paper, not learning any practical skills, and they are falling out of the job market and en masse. Like, as we speak, I'm currently I'm going to put out an application to trade school pretty soon, because I realized the lack of depth within this degree. And I see a lot of people going for like a master's degree, and it's like, bro, you're still lacking. You're still gonna lack. Like, this master's in arts degree ain't it, chief. It ain't it. Like, people are looking for practical skills, and it's skills that they're not offering at the universities. And the thing with university education is that it's actually good. Like, the price going up, you have a lot of people groaning. It's like, well, people can't afford education now. It's like, we don't need more people to afford education. It's the market correcting itself. If the price of a university goes up and they drop and people drop out and start finding alternatives, overall, that's probably going to be a good thing, And, even like if you are like a blue collar family, start teaching your kids a lot of these skills, because we have a lot of men in this country that can't, don't know how to build anything, don't know how to do anything with their hands, because, in a lot of schools, like the wood shop or welding shop has been taken out. They don't know how to fix things around the home. They don't know how to, they don't know how to fix basic appliances. Like 50 years ago, you could go and you could fix a toaster. Like you wouldn't have an instruction manual. I think you just take it apart. It's like, oh, it's this thing's wrong, because it was basic. But the increasing culture of people not going into the trade, not learning how all these skills, has made, millennials and Zoomers kind of, we're a useless generation. It's like, yeah, we can tell you about the history of Karl Marx, but we can't fix a toaster. We can't build a house. We don't know any of this. I think I've been going on for a little too long here. And, I could probably break off everything I said into a couple different videos in the future. But that's about it. Like, stop sending your kids to university. It's hurting them more than it's helping them. Start allowing them to have a more entrepreneurial path, or go and learning practical skills. Like, these things are good for them. They're good for us. They're good for our society. And we have to push it going forward. Universities, they don't have our interests in mind. All they have is this agenda bought and paid for by special interest groups. Like, you have these really awarded professors, and it's like, oh, who's paying for the awards? It's these special interest groups that want their narratives sold in textbooks. They want new activists for their social causes. They want to create a hive mind of people, to ratio people on Twitter. It's not good. I've said that a lot, but it's not good. This has been Save Canada. Do your part to save our country, and let's make this next generation a generation of people with skills. The next generation will be the ones to save us. Plant a tree, water a seed of a tree that you will never see the shade of. We need to push this. Our leaders are weak because they don't know anything. Our leaders are not in touch. Let's create this new generation of leaders. This has been Save Canada. And if the elites of this country won't love you, we will. Thank you. Have a great night.